Welcome to the Real Life Wellness Podcast, the show where we explore how to create your own wellness. We dive into everything that happens on the journey to a happier, healthier, and more balanced life. I'm your host, Faith Lauterbach. As a registered nurse and a holistic wellness coach, I have a passion for empowering people to create a vision for their life, prioritize themselves, and then live the life they want. So get ready to discover new ways to nourish your body, mind, and spirit. Let's embark on this journey together and make wellness simple. Well, hello, and welcome back to the Real Life Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Faith, and I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode number 22, is going to be about some things in my life right now that are helping make my fall lovely and well. Some of my favorite podcast episodes or blog posts or things that people share are the things in their life that's making life easier, that they're loving. I've gotten some really great ideas, and so my hope is that I share these with you and you reach out to me and share yours as well. Fall is my favorite of all the seasons. There's something about the coziness that it brings, the colors of fall, and as the leaves change, fall off the trees, it reminds us that change is part of nature, and it is part of life. So let's talk about 5 things that are making my fall wonderful. The first thing are some quotes. Quotes have always been something that resonate with me. I save them everywhere. I write them down in my journal or my planner. I'll save them in a screenshot in my phone or on Pinterest. I'm trying to be more organized where I keep them so I can look back on them when needed or share with someone in need. But it reminds me that our words are powerful. They can make things feel super clear, and the quote at the right time can help feel like everything will be just fine. So here are some of my favorite quotes about fall. The trees are about to show us how lovely it is to be deeply rooted and let go at the same time. The author or who said that quote is unknown, but I just love what that means and can be so relatable as we go through different seasons. All right, the second quote is, "Life starts all over again when it gets crisp in the fall." And that quote is from F. Scott Fitzgerald. And it just gives me such a good picture of, it just brings to mind the scenes of fall. The third quote I'll share is, "Notice that autumn is more the season of the soul than of nature." And that's by Frederick, and I am probably going to say his name wrong, Nietzsche. It's Nietzsche. I'm sorry if I said that incorrectly. All right. The fourth quote is, "Autumn shows us how beautiful it is to let things go." And the author or who said that quote is unknown. And the fifth quote is, "How beautifully leaves grow old. How full of light and color are their last days." And that quote is by John Burroughs. Each one of those really just, made me feel inside like warm and fuzzy and just a good reminder of what fall and new seasons can mean. All right. So the second thing that I want to share are some books that I'm reading this fall. And I want to add, too, that reading has always been a really big part of my life. Since I was a little girl, I loved to read. And all of a sudden, I realized that I really wasn't reading books anymore, for the last several months. And I do get a lot of joy from it. It is part of my wellness routine. And it was kind of a moment that I thought, like, why am I not reading anymore? And so that gave me the reminder that I needed to make it a habit again. So I restarted this habit. And the way I do that is I read one chapter before bed. You can read 5 minutes before bed. It's a great way to just kind of carve out some time. And instead of scrolling on your phone, scrolling social media before bed, this habit helps me prepare for bed. It helps me to get away from screens and away from the scrolling. And so it's a really great way to pair wellness and something I want to do together. So since I initiated this habit back, which would have been last month, I have started and finished The Women by Kristen Hanna, and I absolutely loved that book. It's about nurses in the Vietnam War, and that's simplifying it, but it's a story of a nurse. It's not a true story, but she did a lot of research, and so there's a lot of historical fiction with a ton of research of people who were in this position. And it's a beautiful story. So if you're looking for a book to read, I do highly recommend that book. The other book I've read since October is Just for the Summer by Abby, and I think her last name is Jimenez. It's Jimenz. That book was also a book I really enjoyed. It is kind of like a romantic book, but it's so full. The characters are so deep and full and just really lovable and believable as real humans. So again, I would really highly recommend both of those books, The Women and Just for the Summer. My preference is really to have 3 books going on at one time, and that might sound like a lot, but let me tell you why. I like to have one book for pleasure, and that is a book that I like to read before bed. I also like to be reading one book for personal development and then one book that I'm learning from. I don't like to read those 2 kinds of books before bed, so I try to carve out a little bit of time to read a little bit from each of those books. So maybe it would look like, the personal development book, working that into my morning routine is usually how that looks. And then a book that I'm learning from, I just try to have that like handy so it's beside me on the couch where I sit. And I just grab that when I'm sitting there. Instead of turning the TV on or scrolling, I'll grab that book. So that brings me to my current reads. So those 3 for me would be The Wedding People by Allison Espach, I think is how you say her name. It's Espach. And this book is described as an uncommonly wise novel about one unexpected wedding guest and the surprising people who help her start anew. It's a really, really good book. There are some subjects in it that may be sensitive to people, so do take care if you are going to read the book and maybe kind of research it a little bit before you start it. But it really, really is a quirky and just kind of warm book that I'm really enjoying. I'm about halfway through. So then the book that I am reading for personal development is called Burnout by Emily Nagoski. And I don't know if you've heard of this book. It has been out for a while. That is my personal development book, and it's actually also my book club book. I have a book club within my wellness membership, and so we will be discussing that book next week, I believe it will be. But this book is described as a groundbreaking book, explains why women experience burnout differently than men, and provides a roadmap to minimizing stress, managing emotions, and living more joyfully. So that is, a lot of things that people are experiencing and to find some different ways to manage that. I think is really important. So that is why I chose it for my book club within my membership. The third book that I'm reading right now is the book I'm learning from, and it's called Dirty Genes by Dr. Ben Lynch. I recently found that I have a gene mutation called the MTHFR, and there are several different types of mutations within it, and I happen to have the worst combination, the most severe form. So it's just been interesting. I've been learning more about it, and I've actually helped some people learn before I even knew I had it. I was helping some people support nutritionally behind this gene. And so it's just kind of this interesting foreshadowing of me actually having it. So this book is really great insight into this. And so I am loving reading it and learning a lot. So those are my 3 books, one for pleasure, one for personal development, and one for learning. The third thing I want to share is my favorite gadget. So I purchased the Beats Solo 4 headphones. And while these aren't necessarily fall related specifically, I happen to get it in the fall. So it's definitely making my fall more pleasurable. I have been a person who earbuds have just never worked for me. I don't know. I have like unusually small ear openings, and I could never, ever find an earbud that fits my ears. They're always falling out. So I'm really happy to be able to have headphones that don't come off. I'm working out in them. I can hear really well in them. It's almost like they're noise canceling. And I don't know, it's really been a game changer for me. And so I'm loving it. I'll link all these things in the show notes. All right. The fourth thing I'll share is my favorite shirt for Thanksgiving. You know, whenever I can bring some whimsy, or maybe people would call it cheesiness, to an experience, I am all for it. And luckily, my husband is a great supporter of this. So last year for Thanksgiving, I found the perfect way to blend these things. And again, my husband was a great sport. But it's through these shirts, and we will definitely be wearing them again this year. And the shirt that he has says, "She's my sweet potato." And it's like kind of a navy blue with white writing. And then my shirt that I wear is orange, also with white writing, and it says, "I am." It's very cute. And again, whimsical, cheesy, whatever you want to call it. It's just fun. So I will be getting those out again for this Thanksgiving. All right. So the fifth thing I want to share that's making my fall fabulous is some podcasts. I'm a big podcast listener. I'm guessing you are too, since you're listening to this podcast, but I feel like there's such a great way to learn. It's also a great way to find commonality with others and gain new perspectives. I love having a wide variety of podcasts that I listen to get just that. You can really experience some different ways of looking at things, different ideas in a really easy to listen way. Sometimes I like a podcast that teaches me something. Sometimes I want one that makes me really examine things and dig deep. And sometimes I just like something that's lighthearted and more kind of conversational. And I actually found that I really like listening to podcasts with my new headphones while I'm working out. So that's been fun. So I kind of combined 3 and 5 in my list. So I want to share with you 5 different podcasts that I have been listening to lately and am loving. So I recently came upon this podcast called the Currently Reading Podcast. And this was season 7, episode 15. And it's called Book Talks in the Wild, plus reading rituals. And I really found it to be delightful. In it, they talk about books. There's 2 podcast hosts, co-hosts in this podcast, and they just are kind of talking about the different books that they like, that they've read lately, So there's a lot of different talks about books. So I got some great ideas on some future books, and their like banter back and forth I found just really enjoyable. Here's another podcast, and this would be more on the learning side. So it's called The Doctor's Pharmacy. And Dr. Mark Hyman is somebody that I really follow and trust. He's a functional medicine doctor. And this podcast episode, it was called My Top Tips for a Better, More Restful Night's Sleep. I think sleep is something we're always striving to make better and improve, to get more restorative sleep. And so this podcast episode gave me some great ideas and things to try. I love, love, love. This is my third one that I've listened to lately, and it is called We Can Do Hard Things. This podcast, there's 3 people who are hosting it, and it's Glennon, Abby, and Amanda. And this episode was called When You Are Tired of Holding Up the Sky. And this is more of a deep one. This is one that makes you really kind of look inside and think about things. And it's for the person, or maybe this is you, or you have a person in your life like this that kind of just handles everything. Somebody that handles all of the moving parts, is always involved in the planning, making the things happen, juggling all the balls, and the ramifications of always doing that. So this one was a really great listen as well. The fourth one that I will have listened to lately that I loved is The Next Right Thing. Emily P. Freeman, I love her podcast, her episode on the list that could save your fall. I'm a big list maker and lover, and I loved her practical ways on how to make a list for your fall. And then, I'll share one of my latest podcast episodes before this one. It's the episode where I talked about what to do when you don't know where to start with your health and wellness. And so that was my last episode. So that would be episode 21. So the one right before this. I just think it's such a great reminder of whether you fall out of a routine, kind of like I did with my reading habit. All of a sudden you're just like, why am I not doing this anymore? That could be something with packing your lunches every day or taking a walk. All of a sudden you got out of the habit. Maybe that's where you're at. Or maybe you're just kind of at square one and you don't know what to do next. This episode will help give you practical ways on what to do. Acknowledging where you are without judgment, starting small with an easy win, tuning into what feels good to you, setting a gentle, achievable goal, focusing on how you want to feel, and giving yourself grace and celebrating small wins. So I'd love for you to take a listen to that one if you haven't, and let me know what you think. All right, so those were all of my 5 things that are making my fall fabulous. So thanks for hanging around and listening to those. And I would love to know if you share the same interests there, or if maybe you have some of your own recommendations. I would love to hear it. Before I go, I just want to remind you, or maybe tell you for the first time, how I can help you take charge of your health and wellness. I have several ways to do that, and they will be linked in the show notes. But the first way is through one-on-one wellness coaching. So I work together one-on-one with clients to empower them to take charge of their health and wellness. We do that through a lot of different modalities, building routines, finding confidence, and really just using nutrition, movement, healthy routines, and mindset to live the life that you love. I do offer a complimentary consultation. And so again, in the show notes, there'll be a link to do that. And you can just see if it feels right. And it's a great way to start. Another way is I have a monthly membership. And as a member, you get a daily wellness challenge that are practical and doable, even with a busy schedule. I email those right to your inbox each morning. Also, you get access to a private Facebook group to be connected to other people. That's optional. If you don't have Facebook, that's okay. The third thing are healthy recipes that are created for meal planning and prepping for your week. I send those out on Sundays. And then you get a weekly meditation every week that you can tune in on Zoom. It's usually 5 to 10 minutes, and it's just a great way to add a little bit of wellness to your day. Those are also recorded, so if you can't join live, the recorded versions will be available. With that, I do a wellness deep dive each week. So that is usually around a nutrition topic. And again, you can join live on Zoom, or I send a recorded version out as well. Another thing are monthly community walks. So let's meet up and walk together. So we meet locally. And if you aren't local, you can still join in on the walk by just sharing what you're doing, where your walk is. And, but anyways, if you're local, we get together, meet, and walk together. It's a great way to chat, build community, and get in some steps. Then I host some office hours once a month. So it's not a coaching space for this, but it's more of a collaborative area and space to share what's working and what's not in your own wellness journey, maybe recipes, ideas, other solutions. And then, like I had talked about earlier, is my book club. And so we read a different personal development book every month, and then we get together and discuss. I also provide a personalized guide. So that is my wellness membership. I have a weekly wellness newsletter that I send out on Wednesdays for Wellness Wednesday, different wellness topic, and ways to make it simple in your own life. I have social media, Instagram. I do stories and reels and posts on there. On Pinterest, if you like Pinterest, I have some different boards with my favorite meal planning ideas, other ways to make wellness simple. And on Facebook, I have, of course, my business Facebook page, but I do have a free private Facebook group. It's called Wellness for Real Life, Body, Mind, and Spirit. I'd love to connect with you in some of these ways, whatever feels right for you. And so you can find those in the show notes, and I'd love for you to reach out and let me know your thoughts. All right, that's it for today. So until next time, be well. Thank you so much for tuning in today to the Real Life Wellness Podcast. To stay updated on my latest episodes and wellness insights, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow me on social media. If you have any questions or topics you'd like me to explore, feel free to reach out. I love hearing from you. If you could, please review or rate this podcast on Apple or Spotify to help more people learn how to make wellness simple.